All right, so we made it to All-Star break. Uh, let's just go over where teams stand right now, and I'll give my thoughts and who I think is going to make into the playoffs at this point in time, and we'll go from there. If I talk about your favorite team in this video, they're either in the National League or I just don't think they have a chance of making the playoffs, so I'm not going to bother talking about them. But we'll go division by division. I'll just talk about the teams that I think have a chance to make it and go from there. So, first and foremost, the first place team in the AL East, currently one of the bigger surprises in the league, if you ask me, the Tampa Bay Rays. They're currently 16th in runs scored this season at 425. They are they're eighth in runs allowed at 383. So they're a pretty balanced baseball team. They do a lot of things really well. The Tampa Bay Rays have always had a knack for finding talent pretty much anywhere, finding a random dude off the streets and making him an everyday player. They have a knack for that. So maybe I shouldn't be too surprised to see that the Rays are doing as well as they are. I just kind of expected the AL East to improve overall as a division this season, and they've really taken a big step back, if you ask me. Uh, Especially two teams in particular, which we'll get to one of them later. But I do think the Rays are going to drop out of first place. Um, I don't think they're going to drop out of the playoffs. I think the Rays are a bit too talented, especially on the pitching side of things. But they've been consistent all year long, so I have no reason to think that the Rays are going to drop out of the playoffs anytime soon. As for the Yankees, they are they're hurting right now. They have a lot of injuries. They're sitting at 54 and 42. They're eighth in runs scored, fifth in runs allowed. Uh, I do think they will take over the Rays, especially once they start to get healthier. But guys like Ben Rice are absolutely killing it. But yeah, I do think the Yankees are going to eventually take first place in that division. It's just a matter of can they stay healthy? That's the question right now. Last team I'm going to talk about from the AL East. Look, a week ago I wasn't going to talk about this team, but they're on a 9-game winning streak heading into the All-Star break, and believe it or not, they're only half a game back of a wild card spot. So I feel like I kind of have to talk about this team. It's the Boston Bo Boobs. Of course, if you're new here, the Bo Boobs is an inside joke. But yeah, uh, Boston Bo Boobs, they're sitting at 46 and 48. They are they they're on a 9-game winning streak. If I were recording this a week ago, I wouldn't even be talking about this team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They just don't have the firepower offensively, and that shows as they're tied for the 28th most runs scored. They don't score. They can't score enough, and that's why they're in the predicament that they're in. But as I said, they're only half a game back out of a wild card spot. They've won 9 straight games, so I feel like I kind of have to talk about them. But the reason they're in the spot that they're in is because of their pitching. Their pitching has been really good this season. That's pretty much all I got. Next, we'll talk about the AL Central, and more specifically, the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox are 50 and 45. They have the 10th most runs scored in the league. They have the 11th most runs allowed. So they're pretty consistent. They're pretty consistent. They're still a young team. They're figuring things out. They're bound to have growing pains. I don't know if they can keep first place as of right now. They are currently tied for first place with the Cleveland Guardians, who we'll get to in a second. I think they're. It depends. It really. I don't think it more so depends on them. I think it more so depends on the other team right on their tail, the other two teams, I guess. But yeah, they are currently in first place uh, because they have the tiebreaker, I guess, over Cleveland. But I think them keeping first place more so depends on Cleveland. Cleveland is currently 51 and 46, so they play two more games, and that's why Chicago has the tiebreaker. But Cleveland is 28th in runs scored and 7th in runs allowed. The reason they're in this spot is because of their pitching, similar to the Red Sox. If Cleveland's hitting can improve even just a little bit, I really could see Cleveland taking this division. Plus, they're not in the hardest division in the world. The Royals look like a complete mess. The Tigers are super injured right now, and they're not doing well. The Twins, I don't know what to make of the Twins, to be honest with you. So I do think that the Guardians hitting can improve. It's just a matter of will it. I think if it does improve, I think Cleveland takes the division. If it doesn't, I think the White Sox are going to take it. It really just depends on how Cleveland's bats finish the season, if you ask me. Now, moving on. Minnesota? Another really interesting team. They're currently tied for a wild card spot right now, but they're not currently in the playoffs. This team, very similar to a lot of other American League teams we've talked about so far. They, oh boy, they're sixth in runs scored, so that's good. What isn't good is the fact that they've allowed the fifth most runs or sixth most runs, something like that. They've allowed 485 runs. That is not a good number. You want that to go down. Of course, it can't go down, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Stop allowing runs, Twins. That's what you gotta do. If the Twins can do that, they have a chance. If the pitching can improve even a little bit, particularly in the bullpen, that number, the Twins could absolutely make a run at the playoffs. As I said, they're currently tied for a wild card spot right now. We'll just see how it goes. And last but not least, let's talk about the American League West. We'll start with the Texas Rangers, the current leader of that division. Uh, they're 22nd in runs scored. They have allowed they're ninth in runs allowed. I can't talk apparently. They're sitting 49 and 47, similar to the Twins. Or sorry, not the Twins, the Boboobs and the Guardians, but to a less extreme degree. They can't hit, but they have really good pitching. If the bats can figure it out, the Texas Rangers should win that division. If they can't, well, you might be in trouble. But the Seattle Mariners are in a very similar situation to the Rangers, as they have the 26th fewest runs scored this season and the sixth, they're sixth in runs allowed. So again, really good pitching, not so great offense. It's a recurring trend in the American League. You see it with the Bobu, the Rangers, and the Guardians, and now the Mariners. And now you have kind of the inverse with the Houston Astros. They're 11th in runs scored, 26th in runs allowed. The pitching is letting them down. Plain and simple. The Astros need to get better arms. Their starting pitching has been a complete mess this season. Their bullpen hasn't been any better. It needs to improve, and it needs to improve now if the Astros are going to make some sort of miracle run at this. They're currently 1.5 games back out of a wild card spot. I don't know if I necessarily believe in them to do it. I really don't. I think that the Astros just. I've always been a believer in pitching. I think really good pitching can overcome really bad hitting. I do not think the inverse, however. I don't think really good hitting can overcome really bad pitching. And that's kind of where I see the Astros I don't think they're hitting. It's not like they have top tier hitting either. They have like middle of the road hitting, right? They're 11th. They're not like top 5, but they are bottom 5 in pitching. So I really don't see the Astros making a run at things. But that's just me. Overall, the 6 teams I have making the playoffs are the Tampa Bay Rays, in no particular order. Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Guardians, Texas Rangers, and the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, it's the 6 teams that are already in there. I very easily could see Cleveland overtaking Chicago. In fact, I think they will because I think their bats are going to improve ever so slightly. Minnesota is an interesting case. I don't think they really have the firepower uh, in the bullpen to be able to sustain a lead. And I mentioned before with the Bo Boobs, I don't think they have enough firepower offensively. None of the bats have really been contributing at all. And they're still, half a game back. So it's not impossible. I just don't see it happening. And then I already gave reasoning for not loving the Astros. Now it's possible that a team like, I don't know, the Orioles or the Blue Jays could come from the depths of despair and somehow make a run. The AL is still wide open. I mean, the team in the wild card right now has a losing record. So it's far from over. It's far from over. All it takes is one good week. You win 5 out of 6 games in a week, and you're right back in the playoff picture. Unless you're a team like the Angels or the Royals. But but yeah, you win 5 out of 6 games in a week. That's a pretty good week. You're right back in it. That's all it takes. But as of right now, that's where I see the American League falling. We'll see how everything else shakes out. And I guess that's it for this one. Uh, don't hurt yourself.